Welcome to the David Bradley Show with your host, David Bradley.
How's everybody doing? All right, now, I'm going to explain something before I introduce this next guest. I have got a serious case of hiccups, and it's driving me nuts. So I've tried to get rid of them. I don't know what in the heck's going on. It might have been that gas station cheeseburger I had earlier. Who freaking knows? But all y'all can agree, when you're busy, you're in a hurry, you're at work, you're doing this, you grab something wherever you can, and sometimes you just pay the price. So we're going to pay the price. If y'all hear me hiccuping, I do apologize, and I'm sure most of you are going to be laughing your butt off anyway because I'm hiccuping. So let's get into it, y'all. We're going to talk to Joe Rucker today. Very talented musician, singer-songwriter, and all around kind of an awesome guy. Been around the community for a long time, and let's get into it. What's going on, Joe?
Hey, David, how are you doing?
Man, it's one of them days.
I should have said boo.
Yeah, I know, right? Scare the hiccups away, and it's making me cough. Why am I coughing now? Dude, this is messing me up, but we're going to try to have fun anyway.
We will. It's always fun with hiccups, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
Life's hiccups and real hiccups, you know.
Yeah, life's hiccups. That's it. I mean, I think everybody can say they've been through some life hiccups in a while.
Oh, yeah. Who ain't?
Especially if you're in the entertainment industry. There's always a hiccup going on.
It's one big hiccup sometimes.
So, dude, I want to hear your story, man. I want to hear everything that I can. And who knows how long this one is going to run, because my assistant pulled your stuff off the internet and I had you proofread it, and you made a couple of changes, but pretty much everything we got on here, and I'm looking over it and everything. And this even before you got here, and I'm like, dude, you've been kicking some tires for a while, man.
I've been around for a while. You know, I tell people, if you stay around long enough, they'll let you do 2 or 3 things. they feel sorry for you after a while. They just let you, we'll just let him do it.
Yeah. So somebody will call and say, hey, come on down, who knows? So you was born in Baytown, Texas?
Baytown, Texas. I call myself, I joke around and say I'm a technical Texan. My family, my brother and my sister are older. I'm the baby of the family.
Oh,
and they'll tell you that I was spoiled too.
Well, okay.
But they were raised in Florida, and I was too. But what happened was how I got to be born in Texas. My dad worked for Boeing at the time.
Oh, the airplane manufacturer.
Yeah, but he was pouring concrete on different, airstrips and whatnot, and he was in construction with them in their construction division, and he got laid off in Florida, where we were from, and they sent him out to Houston. Baytown's right outside of Houston.
Right.
So he was there for 2 years, and that's where they had me. But shortly after they had me, that job dried up, and they went back to Florida. So,
right.
So but I got in. I'm a Texan by birth. So.
Well, that's where the birth certificate's at anyway.
That's right. That's right.
So where'd y'all go? Y'all went to Florida?
Central Florida. Geneva is a little town, if you want to call it that. They've got one stoplight and a couple of gas stations there. But it's if you look at,
believe it or not, I've actually been there.
You've been to Geneva.
I have drove a truck through Geneva, Florida.
Well, I'm sure you must have not blinked, because if you blinked, you would have missed it for sure. But it's right. Well, you know where it's at. But for the people out there, it's, if you look at the map between Daytona and Orlando, it's sort of halfway between. But you have to get off the interstate and go.
Oh, you got to hit the back roads, man.
Oh yeah, Highway 46.
And if I remember correctly, you can take 46 over, and then there's another little road, and then it drops you out over there.
Well, there's 46 and 426.
Yeah, 426.
Intersect there.
Yeah.
At the light.
Yeah.
And my parents, they live out 426. So yeah, you do know the area. They'll be shocked to hear that when they see see the podcast. They know. They used to sell T-shirts. This is how crazy this is. If we bring this up, they used to sell, the Geneva Historical Society used to sell T-shirts that says, "Where in the world is Geneva, Florida?" And it had a map of Florida and just one little tiny speck. Where Geneva is, because it's barely on the map. I mean, and the crazy thing about it, as much as Florida's overgrown now, that little bubble, I mean, it hasn't changed much in the last 40 years. It's still the same, but you can go 8 minutes in any direction and be in the middle of chaos. But, but for some reason, that little bubble there has survived all that. Now, I don't know how much longer.
Well, it's been a long time since I've been down there. Probably 12 years maybe. But there used to be a place down there we cut through, and then we dropped south a little bit, and there was a sugar cane place that manufactured sugar. And I picked up there a lot.
I can't remember the name of what you're talking about, but there's several sugar cane, I don't know if they call them farms or what, but they and have you ever tore into a piece of sugar cane?
Quite a few times down there.
I love it, man. It's just like
it's natural. It's good.
Oh, and I love getting a hold of a Coke or something with real sugar in it, so that corn syrup crap that they put in there.
Well, I mean,
it just tastes better.
You know, back in the day when they actually had cocaine in the Coke, you know, a lot of people were mad when that went away.
Well, that's where all the pep in your step came from.
Coke, the real thing, baby. So y'all moved down there. When did the music come in? This is what I'm curious about.
Well, my dad really is the one that kind of put the bug on all of us kids. All of us kids played some growing up, and I remember Dad, we had a little gospel group, when we were growing up, and we'd play churches and barbecues and things like that. And I remember before I could get my hand around a guitar, they handed me a pair of spoons, and I was slapping spoons for while they were picking, and things. And Mom sang harmony, Dad played the guitar, my brother played the bass, and my sister sang, and I sang. And
y'all just had the front porch quartet?
We sure did. And
well, let's see. 1 minute. No, there was Mom, Dad, you.
Well, there was 5 of us.
There's 5. That's not a quartet. What is that, a quintet?
Hey, I guess it would be.
I don't remember.
But
I have a problem with those.
All I know is I was about, 3 years old in church. And I remember Dad sitting me up on top of the pulpit. And I'd sing Jesus Loves Me. And the little old church lady would hand me a $1 bill. I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to have to work this into a regular thing, I'm getting, but what I thought, man, I've got it made. What I didn't realize is, you don't get paid much more when you're in it for real.
I mean, she started the bug, but the bug don't pay more than that,
Right. I tell you, but it's something. Music's been in my soul, my blood. It's something you can't ever get rid of. And and we musicians, we moan and groan and complain about, and we were talking about this before we started, because you guys in sound and lighting, you get screwed over a lot too. We complain about it, but there's something within us
still do it
that makes us do it. You know, and the truth of the matter is, if nobody would pay me to do it, I'd still pick up a guitar and play, because I've got to. It's just something God put in me.
I seen a thing on Facebook, and it was funny because it showed a band on a good sized stage, lighting, whole 9 yards, and it was just a picture, and there was one person in the audience. And they were kind of laid down in front of the stage. And I'm like, I get it. I understand that completely, because even if you can just take with sounding good from my point of view, this is the sound and the lighting. If you can just make it look good and sound good just for that one person, kind of gets to you, Right. It's a whole thing. And that's the way musicians are. I mean, it was like a 5-piece band. They played their entire set to that one person.
And that's awesome. That's the way it should be too.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, we're all green when we first come to town, and, you know, every artist, I don't know of anybody that I've ever met that came to Nashville that didn't think they were just going to set the world on fire with it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And just had these grandiose ideas about it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I mean, you have to have goals. You have to,
It's the dream, man.
yeah, it is the dream. But when you get past that, and this town will make you jaded. I mean,
It'll eat you alive and spit you out.
It will. And you're gonna, and I'm really throwing this out to anybody that's here and trying to do this thing. You'll get to a point, you're gonna crash and burn for a little while and be disgusted with everything.
Yeah.
But what you don't realize is that's where you're really beginning.
Yeah.
When you get to that point, that's where, when you quit trying so hard to please everybody and you do what your heart and soul is telling you to do, your music, and it doesn't have to be just music, you had actors on this show. It's the same kind of thing.
Oh yeah. It's the same.
Even what you're doing, it's the same. It's the same. Everybody that's creative, that's got a God-given creativity, once you get past, that low point of, you're just, and it's woe is me. Nobody wants to hear me. Nobody, I'm not getting paid for this or that. And you realize, why am I really doing this?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm doing it to please, I mean, you want to please your audience, but if I'm doing it to chase, instead of chasing the dream, you end up chasing the business, or you end up chasing, or worrying about what the guys in the suits think. I don't give a crap what they think anymore. You know, I mean, I quit that a long time ago, I found that the joy came back once I quit caring and chasing this crazy thing. And a part of it, I mean, everybody that comes to town and wants to do music, they'd be lying if they told you they weren't chasing, a little bit of the fame. I mean, that's what you want when you come here.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I've known a lot of famous people, and man, that doesn't complete you. Fame is fleeting anyway.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you've only got, now it used to be they'd tell you when I got here in the 90s in the country music field, if you got 10 good years in a run, that would be great.
Yeah.
Now if you got 2,
oh yeah.
It's really, I mean, you just think about it. You think about people that were, some people survive it, but you think about people that were big 2 years ago and you don't even see them now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the cycle is getting shorter and shorter and shorter every year or every time it comes around. And that's the sad thing about, I enjoy artistry, no matter what kind of music genre or acting or writing, even authors. But the music business seems like it has gotten so crazy that they're not allowing artistry to even bud.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like when I had Ash Taylor on last week.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
And she had went when she first got here and was following the mold and following the recipe and doing all that stuff, and it didn't work for her. And she told me on air, she's like, I said, the heck with that. I'm going to do it my way, which I'm a big Frank Sinatra fan. I think everybody should look to that man and think, if that guy can have that long of a freaking career, make that kind of money just doing it his way. And anybody that was around Frank Sinatra will tell you, he done it his way.
Right.
That was it. You know, wasn't no ifs, ands, buts about it. This was what he was going to do. And dude, I mean, he was playing all the way up to almost, I think, 2 years before he passed away or something.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just, my hat's off to people like that, because.
Have you heard the Bill Monroe Frank Sinatra story?
No, go for it. Give me it. Give me it.
Now, people don't count this as being true. I've just heard it.
Okay, so this is a hearsay.
Yeah, but somebody said that they actually ended up on a talk show or something together. You know, Bill Monroe, the father of bluegrass music, and Frank Sinatra. I mean, two polar opposite as far as genres go.
Oh yeah,
and Bill didn't really. Bill was sort of the Frank Sinatra of bluegrass. I mean, he was the father of bluegrass.
Yeah.
But
everything was based on what he did.
You know, from what I've heard, they got to talking, or somebody introduced him, and he said, I think Frank had already done his song. I think it was a TV show they were taping.
Yeah, and
he said, "That's a pretty good song, Frank." He said, "Have you ever been on the Grand Ole Opry?" He's that because Frank Sinatra was. And Frank said, "No, Bill, I've never been on the Opry." He said, "Well, one day maybe you'll make it." And the thing about it was, Bill was dead serious. Yeah. He's talking to Frank Sinatra, but to Bill, there was nothing bigger than the Opry, Yeah. It's just funny little story.
Well, did you ever hear the story about Elvis Presley when he went to the Opry?
Oh yeah, about going back to drive. He was told to go back driving a truck.
Yeah, and you know who told him that?
Was it who was it?
It was my great aunt, Wilma Briggs.
Oh wow!
Told him that he would never make it. All that leg shaking and all that stuff.
Now, did she work for the Opry?
She worked for the Opry.
Wow, man, that's something.
That was crazy. When they had the big flood in Opryland,
yeah,
she was down there moving all those records and everything from a boat.
Have you talked to her about that?
Nope, she has passed away.
Oh.
But I remember her telling the story to me when I was younger. Oh God, I was probably 8, 9 years old. And that's where I remembered the story. And then,
well, I had heard, I knew a lot of the older Opry guys, and a lot of them passed away, and several of them were there when Elvis first appeared, and they all said he just did not go over well. I mean, it was so new.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, I tend to believe that the audience actually liked it, but they were in such shock because they'd never seen it before.
Well, that's true. That's a big thing.
That they just sort of just sat there in awe.
Yeah.
And that's what I think really happened. I don't think it was that they were displeased or disgusted necessarily as much as they'd never seen it before. I mean, you just kind of sit there like, what is this?
What's going on?
But obviously they ended up loving it by the
millions, God, yeah.
So
he's I mean, there ain't no telling how much money that whole family, everything is made off that.
He died just a year or two after I was born, and we're still talking about him now. And I'm quite sure when my great grandkids are my age, people will still be talking about him.
Yeah.
And you don't, how you don't see that nowadays. I mean, I don't know of anybody that I could say that about that's out today.
Really, if you're not in the music industry, nobody hardly ever discusses Bill Monroe.
Right.
Any of the old ones. Ergens Tubbs.
Right.
Nobody hardly ever talks about them. And to me, I think, honestly, one of the best guitar pickers I've ever seen. Now, you got to remember, my genre was, back in the 80s, I was 80s glam metal and all that stuff, But my grandmother, Mamaw, she went to fanfare every year. And guess who had to go with her?
You.
Yeah, I always went with her. And that's kind of where I was getting my introduction to country music and everything. But one of the best guitar players I've ever seen in my life, and it didn't matter if it was guitar or banjo or what it was. You put any instrument in Roy Clark's hands.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And dude, he was just awesome.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can't tell you, my generation, you probably were this way too. We could not survive without hee haw.
No, that was
Saturday
where it was all
night
at.
Was hee haw night.
And everybody looked forward to Grandpa. What's for
supper?
dinner?
Yeah.
What's for dinner? What's for supper?
Yeah.
And it was always something different.
And of course, my dad, I think he watched for different reasons. He was a music man, but those hee haw honeys,
oh, they were hot, dude. They were hot.
But
hang on, I'm reflecting here now.
Well, there's a lot to reflect.
Oh yeah, and their little blue jeans shorts, and I can't even remember what kind of outfit it was that they wore up top, but had the ballooned arms and then the like a come across. Yeah, that was hee haw was risque back in the day.
And it was corn pone humor, but we all loved it.
Oh yeah, it was great.
It was now they'd call them dad jokes.
Mm-hmm. All about dad jokes.
But it was a simple format, but it worked. The show was on for nearly 35 years or whatever. It ran from 69 to like 92 or 3. It was a crazy run, all this Purity water.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even know they made Purity water. I thought Purity Dairy was just milk and orange juice. But, they help us out with the show and provide beverages, and they do Purity water and Purity sweet tea.
It's the good stuff. It's spring water. It's not
exactly.
It's not that recycled water.
It's got a whole lot better taste. Yeah. Better than a daggum tap stuff. I can tell you that.
We call that the Cumberland Punch.
Yeah, well, I was a hose pipe kid, so I wonder when they gonna come out with a hose pipe flavor.
It does have a distinct flavor, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It's like rubber and metal mixed.
All the good stuff, Oh,
kids these days don't even know what we're talking about.
They have no freaking clue, dude.
Because see, we used to be locked out of the house. If mom was mopping the kitchen or something in the summer, it's like, you got to be outside,
Oh yeah, and heaven forbid if she was waxing the hardwood floors.
Yeah, because that was hours.
Yeah,
we like being outside anyway.
I lived outside.
Yeah, barefoot climbing trees and everything else.
Mm-hmm. We'd always have lunch at somebody else's house or whatever.
Well, see, I was telling you before, I was spoiled, but I was more than just being the baby in the family.
Yeah.
My grandmother lived across the street from us.
Oh, so, you had food on tap.
Oh, man. I used to make my mom mad because I'd get home from school and she'd be fixing dinner, and it could be one night maybe she was making something I didn't like or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just eat 2 or 3 bites of it. I'm just not hungry, Mom.
Yeah, and then go right across the street.
And I'd go across the street, Granny'd make me whatever I want. And make her so mad.
Oh, yeah, it will. It tears some people up, man. All right, so let's get back to you and not your grandma. So your dad played guitar too?
Yeah, he played and wrote. Dad really had an interesting side career as well. He worked in the space program. He worked at Cape Canaveral Kennedy Space Center,
right,
in the space shuttle program from the time it started, and really until he retired in 2009. I think the last space shuttle flight was in 2010, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But doing that and being in music he decided, people nowadays don't realize how big of a deal the space shuttle was at the time.
It was huge.
That first shot that went up, the first several shots that went up, it was like all of the world was watching.
Mm-hmm.
They would flood, the Space Coast there in Titusville and the surrounding communities, and just miles and miles and miles of cars stopped just to watch it go up.
Yeah.
It was a huge deal, and I miss that excitement about space now. But back in those days, it was the big thing, and so he wrote a little tune called "Blast Off Columbia." Columbia was the first space shuttle to go up, and he just had enough gumption about him, and working there as a technician. He worked on, the big orange fuel tank. They had the boosters, and then the orbiter was on front. He worked on that big tank. He did. I mean, he'd probably tell you what he did, but I don't know. He had several different jobs that he did with it. But he wrote this song, "Blast Off Columbia," and got it into the hands of somebody there that was at powers that be. And so
at the program and space program.
Yeah. So when they launched the Columbia, the first morning that they were in space, they always do a wake up call with a song.
Mm-hmm.
And they used his song, "Blast Off Columbia," to wake up the astronauts, John Young and Robert Crippen.
Oh, cool.
First flight in space there for the space shuttle.
What year was that? I can't even remember.
1980.
1980.
And 80 or 81. It was right there though.
Yeah.
And and then they even put it in a little NASA documentary. It's still on YouTube. You can find it. I can't remember the name of it right yet, but I've got it on DVD too, where they show that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So he got his 15 minutes of fame. Walter Cronkite mentioned his name in one of his space books that he wrote. And he got to do some interviews. He was on the Today Show back in the day and all that.
Yeah.
And so that little bit of fame for a short period of time gave him the bug, and he decided he'd come to Nashville and record more.
Mm-hmm.
Came up here and recorded same studio that Dolly recorded 9 to 5 in.
Yeah.
Back then it was called Audio Media. I don't even think it's there today. I think
there ain't no telling.
Yeah, it's just as 40 some years ago. But so and I really feel like, he could have had a chance to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
He had 3 mouths to feed, and he had, it's always weighing on him, okay, I've got this job, I've got this career in space program, or I could, take this huge gamble and move to Nashville and try that. But,
Hey, with that kind of money, I think I would have stayed right where I was at.
Yeah, and that's what he did, and of course, we had a great life growing up. I mean, we weren't the richest kids on the block, but we had what we needed, and we had mom and dad that loved us, and I can't, I look back on my childhood, and it's freaking awesome compared to some other stories that I've heard. So I have nothing but good things to say about that. I think he made the right decision. But in all of that, I'm sure the what ifs, were
they play on you.
Yeah.
Big time. They will play on you.
He's such a great songwriter, wrote a lot of gospel songs and things, and I've actually recorded a few of them. But I felt like I didn't really get the bug until I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And see, the space program, it's funny how God works things out, because the space program, indirectly, because of his job there, gave me the bug for music. And how that happened is my dad happened to work with a guy at the time whose father-in-law was Grand Ole Opry star Hank Locklin.
Yeah.
And Hank Locklin, for those who don't remember, had this big, huge song, "Please Help Me, I'm Falling," and "Send Me the Pillow You Dream On," and a bunch of other hit songs.
Yeah.
So, in fact, PBS, I think it was 3 years ago, has put out a movie on Hank Locklin's life. It's called The Timeless Tenor, I believe. I might be messing that up. And his son Hank Adam is watching, he'll probably get on me for messing.
You never know. You're liable to get a phone call, man.
But it was a great. PBS did a great documentary. Dolly Parton, Dwight Yoakam, a bunch of people are on there talking about Hank, and so what happened was Dad came home from work at the Cape one night and said, "Hey, we're going to go over to my buddy Miles' house and we're gonna have dinner with Hank, you know." And I didn't know at the time, you know, when you're a kid in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, you know, listening to country music, it was like George Strait, McIntyre. I didn't know who Hank Lachlan was. I mean, that was he was big in the 60s. Yeah. But I just knew, you know, he said, this guy sings on the Grand Ole Opry, and, you know, we're going to go over and have dinner. So I knew it was a big deal. I just didn't realize how big of a deal it would end up being. And how
my big thing was Garth Brooks.
Right.
Because that was right in that era where he just erupted on the scene.
Right.
And I was just like, dude, you know.
Right. And there's a story about Hank Lachlan and Garth Brooks. Hank lived in a little town called Bruton, Alabama. And Garth, when he first got his deal with Capitol, they sent him on a Walmart tour.
And that sounds like fun.
He would just go to all the Walmarts, do a little acoustic set, and then sign autographs.
Yeah.
Well, Hank heard about this new guy from Capitol at his hometown Walmart, so he went in there, and he felt bad for him because there wasn't a soul in line for autographs. He's just sitting behind his little table. This is when Garth Brooks just first debuted.
Yeah.
And so he felt bad, and he went up and bought a few posters and introduced himself. Of course, Garth was a huge fan of Hank's and knew who Hank was, you know. And Garth remembered that all those years, you know, how back in the lean years before nobody knew him, you know, Hank made the trip over to the Walmart just to say hello. But so we met Hank in Merritt Island, Florida at his daughter's house. Her husband at the time worked with my dad, and I was a 12-year-old kid, and of course my dad had sung his songs around the house, and though I didn't know the name Hank Lachlan, I knew a lot of these songs that they were singing.
Yeah, you knew the songs, but not the name behind
right.
it. Yeah.
And he got to telling stories that night of how, you know, he had given George Jones one of his first professional jobs, you know, when George was just a kid, you know, going along. And I'm thinking, wow, this guy's pretty cool. And I don't know, something clicked in me, and I started wanting to dig.
Yeah.
You know? And from that point on, you know, where most people, you know, I mean, I tell these people this story all the time, you know, like when I was in high school in the 90s, I mean, people were playing, you'd hear the car radios, the guys coming in, they'd have, you know, Green Day or Red Hot Chili Peppers, you know, and I like all that stuff. I like all music.
Yeah, that's the way I am.
Now my art as an artist, you know, I've got this country voice. I can only go one way, you know.
Well, I don't know. The Lacs are starting to do that with the country voice and the rap. Of course, the Lacs have been out for a while now. Excuse me, sorry, y'all. But yeah, the Lacs have been out for a while, but they've got that country drawl and it's country rap.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I get a kick out of telling people, you know, you'd hear all this stuff on the radio, Chili Peppers and U2 and you know, Green Day and all that stuff, and then here I pull in the parking lot and I've got little Jimmy Dickens and Hank Lachlan playing on the radio. You know, people look at me sideways, but I didn't care. You know, that was just my thing. You know, I have an appreciation and affinity for that older music because, you know, for one thing, the artists, they had to really be able to sing. You know, we all, you know, and I know you know this from the studio world, you know, there wasn't no punching in.
No, there wasn't.
Back then. I mean, you know, it was a 2-track system.
Yeah.
And if somebody screwed up, guess what? You're starting the whole thing over again.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to be good. You had to be ready to go and rehearsed when you got there. And I don't know. There's just a warmth to the music. And that's not to say I don't listen to things that are out nowadays, but I've always leaned,
towards the older stuff.
Yeah. So
say I'm y'all can't see this. He was sitting there watching me because I was pulling up something, and there's a guy that I used to listen to, but I couldn't remember exactly if I had the name correct. And I was trying to look it up on here. But he was big down in Texas, man.
And
he was just an old
country?
Yeah, he was country radio. And of course I put Ledoux in here, and it's
Chris Ledoux?
Chris Ledoux.
Oh yeah.
See, I was thinking it was Chuck Ledoux. But Chris Ledoux.
Well,
and I listened to a lot of him.
You talk about Garth. That was Garth's hero, dude. I mean, he was the guy. I mean, even
dude, Texas,
put him in his songs and stuff.
When it would come to Texas, it was all him. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was just awesome back down in there.
Yeah. And I love playing Texas, and I'll be down there in August.
Cool.
In Brady, Texas. It's the dead center of the state.
Mm-hmm.
They call it the heart of Texas. And having a honky tonk festival down there now, and they do a lot of Western swing, which is another flavor of Texas music. And all that shuffle stuff, and I love that. I love that. So we're gonna have fun down there, and we're actually gonna do a Texas album while we're down there. So that's gonna be fun too.
How many's gonna be on there? Is it 12 songs, 10 songs?
Well, I'm looking at between 10 and 12. I'm kind of picking songs right now.
Yeah.
And some of them are going to be well chosen covers, and some of them are going to be some that I wrote.
Yeah.
And we've actually got some duet things in the works.
I'm not singing a duet with you. I'm sorry.
But you've got such a great voice.
No, I can't. I can't
just
sing.
Do the recitation part.
I cannot sing. I cannot sing. I'm telling you. And even if I did, nowadays with all the contracts and everything, I ain't signing my name that much.
I can't afford you anyway. Sure.
You got 50 cents. So one thing I was looking at is you actually appeared on Ernest Tubb's Midnight Jamboree show.
Oh gosh, more times than I can count over the years.
They don't even have that show anymore.
Well, they've started bringing it back. Yeah,
did
they closed down for a little while, but earlier this year they have it over at the Troubadour. Mm-hmm. Now the thing about it is, it's not, they air it at midnight, but they tape it 2 hours earlier, and then it's
that's because we're older. We gotta go to bed, man.
but yeah, they tape it at 10. Now I haven't been on it in about 2 or 3 years, but man, I played that show. Oh gosh, I can't even 20 or 30 times probably in the last 25 years. And you talk about a show full of history. To me, it's second to none as far as. It's second only to the Grand Ole Opry, I would say. And a lot of people, you talked about Elvis.
Yeah.
When he appeared that night on the Opry and got told to go drive a truck again.
Yeah.
Ernest, knew he was down. He said, come over to the record shop show and sing a couple of songs with me. And so he did. He went over and appeared there. And to think that I've been on the same show that Elvis was on.
Oh yeah.
Hank Williams Sr. I mean, anybody that's anybody in country music has been on that show, and if you've ever watched the Coal Miner's Daughter, Loretta Lynn, they did a scene in there.
Yeah. I remember
Midnight Jamboree.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a huge deal. I'm glad it's coming back. I hope people will support it. And, you never got paid very much to do it. It wasn't, but people don't realize this. You don't get paid very much to do the Opry either.
No.
You get scale.
Yeah.
And that's it. So it's more of the honor to be on it. You know, that's why you do it, you know, and I love everything about Ernest Tubb Record Shop and what Ernest created a show to help the young independent artists or the independent artists because they could not be heard elsewhere.
No.
He gave them a shot.
Yeah.
And that legacy is living on, and it's a great thing, man.
You know, and that's a lot of things that's things that I like to do here, especially, you know, up and coming artists, other artists that have been around for a long time, you know, it's like I was telling Ash Taylor, and several other people I've told. And like me and you talked about earlier, Nashville will eat you alive.
It will.
And you wouldn't believe how many actual, real, raw, talented people have just walked away. They could have got signed. They could have been, you know, their music heard everywhere. Instead, now it's probably going to be passed down to somebody when they pass away, and you know, some grandkid or great grandkid's going to pull it out of an old trunk one day and look at it and what's going on?
And it's a real shame, and it's really because of these people that are running things. Most of them don't even have any music knowledge base whatsoever. The majority of them, I'd say 95% of them, just have MBAs or some sort of business degree.
And they're following the formula.
And there is no formula for an artist.
No.
I mean, you know, and the thing that people don't understand in the public, you know, I when I was really trying back in the day, you know, some sweet old ladies, when I'd go home to Florida, they'd say, well, you know, what you got to do is record your song and then take it around to the radio stations and get them to play it.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't want to, you know, tick off Sister Sally or whatever. So you say, oh yeah, is that what I'm supposed to do? You know, and just sort of just shake your head. Well, I'll think about trying that. You know, and then just go on.
Well, I mean, she wasn't half wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you got to do. But what she doesn't tell you, or what she doesn't realize is, you know, it takes more than an act of Congress to even get through to that. You know, I mean, these radio, you know, they're owned by conglomerates.
Yep.
And they're not gonna play an independent artist or even somebody that's on a label unless it's got $1 million worth of promotion in it.
Oh yeah, it's. I was telling somebody else the other day. It used to be when you come to Nashville, you play the clubs. Somebody would hear you. You might get a shot that way. But nowadays,
well, now
you got to have a pocket full of money every time you hit this town.
The people that are running, you know, the show in Nashville, they don't even come out to the clubs.
No,
and they don't. You know, if they do, they don't want to be bothered. You know, I mean, they're not. You know, it's just not. You know, and the thing of it is, David, I mean, the way it is now. I mean, if you did get signed, and I'm not trying to poo-poo this.
Oh no, we're not. We're just talking about our personal experiences and that.
But they will own you in the sense that, you know, you're not going to record anything that they don't want you recording.
Got to follow the formula.
You have to a T.
Yeah.
To a T. You know, and that's like our buddy Leon that was on here a few weeks ago with you, Leon Everett.
He's a freaking hoot, man.
He is, man. I mean, you know, you can't use your own road band on your recordings. You know, they tell you that.
Yeah.
But he did, you know. I mean, he snuck
he did it all.
But he did it, you know.
You know, and if I remember correctly, his band won Band of the Year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he handpicked each one. He told me all about it.
Right.
It was on the show. I think he told me that on the show.
But there's a perfect example, you know, and of how you have a string hit records, string of hit records. I'll say it right in a minute.
Yeah.
And just so bogged down by the industry that you end up saying bye-bye and walking away.
Oh yeah.
And
the biggest laugh I had was when he was telling me about the soda pop
Belly
deal.
Yellow.
Yeah, the Mellow Yellow.
Yeah.
I laughed my butt off on that.
I remember that commercial when I was a kid too.
I did too.
Yeah, he could have had all them residuals, but he took
for life, man.
Yep.
Dude, I would have been like, he could be like quadruple billionaire by now.
But and I could say this because I know him a little bit. He's a happy man. Who knows what would have happened if he? It
could have been miserable, rich and miserable.
Yeah.
And that's
And of course he came back to the Lord and quit drinking and all that kind of thing too, which is a big part of it. But
well, yeah, he straightened his life out.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. This town can chew you up and spit you out. But if you go back to doing what you love, none of that other stuff is going to matter.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I feel like I'm in a good spot right now, because I'm just doing the music that I like to do, writing what I like to write, and if I throw it out there and if people like it, great. If they don't, I'm not offended by that. It's different strokes for different folks. I mean, everybody's got, everybody likes something.
Oh yeah.
And somebody's gonna like what I do.
That's what. And I keep referring back to this because I actually had a really good conversation with her, just like I am with you, about the industry and everything. And she said one of the best quotes that actually woke her up was Martina McBride on a show, and Martina just looked at the camera and said, "Look, just write the damn song."
Right. Don't worry so much about.
Don't worry about everything else.
And that's the thing, when you're trying to write and things, and the co-writing thing, which I like co-writing just fine. I've written some great tunes with some different folks.
Hey, whenever you write, let me know and I'll come put a word in there or something.
Well, all you have to do nowadays is just be in the room sometimes. And you get your name put on it. That's what I've heard anyway.
David hummed a few bars.
But, they always tell you, if you join some of these organizations that are supposed to help the younger writers, or not necessarily younger writers, because you could be any age and write, but the ones that are starting out, they tell you, listen to what's on the radio and so you can know what's commercial nowadays, and, this and that. That's a load of crap as far as I'm concerned.
If you do that and you listen to this, then you're going to write a series of freaking songs that were just played on the radio.
Right. And that has happened so many times. And that's the number one thing that I learned. I try not to listen. I listen very little to the radio. I don't want to be influenced by it when I'm in the mood to write. I don't want to pick up things that aren't me.
Yeah.
And, not that I'm afraid I'm going to steal something of somebody's. It's just, but it can happen.
Inadvertently.
Right. And, I want to retain that originality.
Yeah.
And so, I just don't do it their way. And I don't care what they think.
And I did it my
That's
way.
right. Do it the Frank way.
Do it Frankie's way, man.
That's right.
That's what I like. I mean, and that's how Waylon and Willie and all those guys back in the day got that outlaw status, man.
The thing about Waylon that I loved, and Willie too, is, and we talked about this about Leon, using their road band.
Yeah.
And Waylon wanted to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And he was with RCA, and Chet Atkins was producing him, and Chet fought him on it, and he just finally thumbed his nose at it.
Oh yeah.
And did it anyway. And those records in the mid to late 70s, really up until the early 80s, were some of the best country music that ever came out of there. And the thing about it is, they're not polished.
No.
They're rough around the edges.
Well, they got that warmth to them.
They're
man.
not the slick, Nashville, perfect to a T, polished musicians.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what made it so great, man. I mean, it was just the raw energy behind it, and that's the way I like to do things. I don't like, there's a studio in town that I will not name, but I can tell every record that comes out of that studio because the drum kit is EQ'd always the same.
Yeah.
They use it, and there's several studios in town like that.
Usually when they set the kit up, that's it. And
you can tell when the drum track's been done at such and such studio because it sounds exactly the same. I don't like that. If I were booking that studio, I'd say, look, dude, Mr. Engineer, we're going to put our own setup, and you're going to mic it. And
because when I was doing it, especially sound around town, everybody's got their own freaking kit, man.
Yeah.
You might be working on, a DW kit or
right.
What's a couple of other ones, Mapex, and and they're different thicknesses. There's different everything. But if you set up one kit and you have all these other drummers come in, you're still not micing that kit to that drummer,
right?
Because each drummer, I don't care who you are, from Neil Peart,
harder, or they're not going to hit as hard.
Right, from Neil Peart all the way down, it's everybody plays different, and you've got to mic them different. Mm-hmm. And to me, drums need to sound like drums.
Right.
Okay. You go back to listen to some African drumming, with the bongos and the different things that they did, that sounded like drums. Okay. When you're playing a kit, I want to hear, I'm tongue tied. I want to hear and feel that bass kick. Mm-hmm. I want to hear the different levels of tone in each tom. And
the snare shot.
Oh yeah.
The snare shot, in the mid 80s, we went through this phase where it was a very pinched sound.
Oh yeah. I couldn't stand it. It was just yeah, that was it.
And there's no shot to the snare shot. It was,
that was it.
This is like, there's no ring with it, and
snare is supposed to have a little bit of ring.
And and you may be this way as a sound engineer, and this drives my wife crazy sometimes, but if there's a song that I think's got a great track to it,
mm-hmm.
I'll listen to that song over and over again, and my producer brain is dissecting what the drummer's doing, what the bass line is doing. And, if I fall in love with a drum track or a bass line, I can listen to that same song 20 times and hear something different in it, and that's just, and I can't describe this to anybody other than other creative folks that are into this. I can't just listen to a song anymore.
You kind of dissect each one, that's like, what year was it come out? It's the one song, it was a little bit commercialized, but that's what really put Judas Priest on the map. And it was Heading Out to the Highway. Mm. And every time I heard it, man, I was just like, okay, this guitar, there's the bass line, there's the drums. It was just all, and it sounded so good. And it was just metal, and then Rob Halford with that voice. And I would just sit there and listen to that over and over and over again, picking out each little part, and give me a band with dueling guitars.
Right.
Oh, I love it. It's awesome.
Man, there's a lot, and that's what I love. I love being in the studio and creating.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I thrive.
Right.
I'd almost rather do that. I love playing live shows, don't get me wrong.
Well, you get that feedback from the crowd that way,
Right.
And that's a lot.
Well, what's fun to me is, my favorite place to be is in the studio creating music, creating something from nothing.
Yeah.
You have the song, but you're thinking in your mind. And see, I'm not an engineer at all. I mean, I know very little about it, but I think I'm a pretty good producer because I'm able to tell what the engineer what I want.
Oh yeah.
And I've got a lot of ideas that way, but to create that song and then once it's done and out, play it before the people to get their reaction. Man, it's like a full circle, completion type thing. It just, nothing is more satisfying to me.
Oh no. I loved it. I loved doing the sound part of it. And I loved being creative with the lights because I could actually set the lights in different ways depending on how I run them. I could, par different sets together and pair. I could pair different par cans together and create different illusions and
You can
designs.
par 'em up, can't
I could
you?
par them up. Par, baby, par.
Oh,
Hell, the other night I went downtown. Chris Turner was playing, private event, and the sound person hadn't got there yet. And the manager handed me a tablet. And I'm looking down at the tablet going, what are you going to do with that? And he's like, well, that's how we run sound here.
you used to all the faders, but you look at the tablet, it's just a digital image of them faders. I mean,
That's all it is.
yeah.
But it's different pages that you have to go through.
Yeah, because it's not one big board.
Yeah, I mean, if you're used to working on a 32, 48, whatever, channel board, and I got him a little bit dialed in, and then, of course, the sound person comes in. A great lady. I mean, she was very nice. I can't remember her name. I am sorry, but a shout out to you at Chris Turner's show doing the sound. You was awesome. And she actually showed me some stuff on that tablet because this is the first time I'd ever seen it. And you got to remember, I left the music industry in 2008. Since 2008, we have went from boards to digital everything. Even the light shows are all LED. They're digital controlled. And you have to preset all that stuff and make the lights do what you want it to do to a song.
We are now the Jetsons in the music and lighting world and sound world.
Dude, I'm more like yabba dabba do, man. I mean, come on.
Oh,
I'm the Flintstones, man. I mean, it's just
Flintstones living in the Jetson
it drives
world.
me nuts. I got a picture of that though. I don't know if anybody else knows what we're talking about, but
Well, a couple music nerds get together.
I think I got a picture of it. Yep, I got a picture of it. That crap right there.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm gonna go to your camera and I'm gonna hold this up. And that's a picture of me holding that little tablet. It's a tablet with faders on it. And then I asked her, I said, I'm not, I don't know a whole lot about this, but I want to know, where do you do the knobs? And she said, what knobs? And I said, treble,
Right.
mid-range,
EQ.
and bass. The 3-point EQ that is on each channel on every board. And she was like, we don't have that no more.
Well, see,
I'm like, you're kidding me.
I didn't even know that because that shows you how much I know.
She hits two little screens, and you know what you got?
It EQs the whole thing
You got a graph. And you drag.
where you want each band to be.
Yeah. And I'm like, no wonder you guys are getting so much feedback because there's no way in hell on that little graph you're going to drop 10K out.
Yeah, how can you fine tune that? I mean,
It's not. It's all presets. You just, you drag it, and that's what you got. That's it. And I'm just like,
I'm sure that there are new engineers out there rolling their eyes.
oh, they're probably laughing their ass off at me. I mean, bottom line, I'm just old school. I mean, really, with this Rode podcaster here, you don't see no knobs.
Right.
I've got faders, but all the stuff is inside on the processor. And it took me 30 days of playing with this daggum thing just to get the sound that we have now.
it's getting that way with everything, man.
I mean,
It really is. It's just like, every once in a while I'm thinking about, I'm going to go back to changing my own oil in my vehicle to save some money.
yeah, you ain't gonna be able to do it.
You can't get to the dadgum filter. I mean, without removing a bunch of stuff.
You got to take all kinds of stuff off, and
I mean, they could do it easy at the place because they got it.
well, they got it up in the air,
But it's like that's just crazy. But I'm still going to change my oil in my old truck. I can do that.
Well, I mean, everybody that comes on the show, or even if they don't come on the show, but I mean, if I get anybody to go listen to somebody, I go. That's just me. I mean, to me, if you're going to do a show, then you need to go listen to who's actually coming on the show or doing this or doing that. I'm not driving to Texas to listen to you play. I'm sorry.
Well, hey, I've got one at the Troubadour coming up in July, so I'll let you.
You let me know. I'll come see it. We'll hang out at the Troubadour.
Yeah.
God, Troubadour needs to give me money. We're sitting there plugging the hell out of them.
That's right. You go down there and tell them that I said.
Hey, y'all, Joe Rucker said.
At least give you a hot dog or something.
I don't want no daggum hot dog. Give me a plate of nachos, man. Give me a plate of something. Not no hot dog.
They've got, I believe it's Troubadour. They've got good wings down there, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no clue. I don't even think I've been down there yet.
Man, it's a whole different world. It used to be, it was a theater. Mm-hmm. Now it's a club. I mean, they got a dance floor and they serve food, and I've had their hamburgers. Hamburgers good down there too.
Jimmy Adams and all them doing that country box and stuff down there, and I haven't been down there for that. And I've been invited.
I haven't either. Leon, he played that one time, and I didn't even get to go that night. But I think it's a great idea.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and I'm glad boxing's coming back, because when I was a kid, man, I used to love watching it on TV, and my dad, that was one thing that me and my dad and my brother liked to do together, is watch boxing matches. And
well, see, me and my dad was the wrestling.
Yeah. Well, I like wrestling too, but not as much as boxing,
Yeah.
Evander Holyfield. And
well, see, my dad taught me the Fargo strut before it actually got real big, when Ric Flair started doing it.
Yeah.
And, of course, he changed the name of it, but that actually started with Jackie Fargo, and my dad actually was an understudy of Jackie Fargo. I think he did it for, God, I have to ask my mother about that, but he was an understudy of Jackie Fargo for 4 or 5, 6 months, something like that, and decided wrestling wasn't for him.
Well, he probably broke a lot less few bones.
Oh yeah.
Decided to stay out of that,
But I mean, just some of them old stories he would tell me and stuff. It was awesome. Your first album was called The Nashville Scene.
Yeah, my dad wrote a song called Nashville Scene.
Okay.
And it was about a dream that he had. The first line is, "Last night I dreamed of Nashville scenes and guitars playing loud." And it was about how, he had a dream that he made it big in Nashville. And but he came down off that mountain, because the second verse talks about how he woke up. He was just on the couch with the football game was on, and it was back to normal, but he still loved singing about those Nashville scenes, so I used that as a title track of that album. And a guy by the name of Doyle Grisham, who's a steel guitar player in town and also is a choral reefer in Jimmy Buffett's band for years, still
okay, cool.
Played steel for Jimmy Buffett. He produced that album.
Sweet.
And it was my first studio experience in town back in, I think we recorded that, and came out in 2000, so 99 or so when we were doing it, and had a lot of fun doing that. And then the second album is my baby. It's the one that I first produced. I've produced the last two that I've done.
Yeah.
And we had all kinds of musical guests on there. My buddy Eddie Raven, who was huge back in the 80s, had string of 7 #1 hits and 14 top 10s, and just really a big artist in country music. He
had the dream going, didn't he?
Yeah, we did a thing called Bermuda Shorts, and it's the chorus is "You could eat my Bermuda shorts" or any other saying of that sort. It's a tongue-in-cheek thing about how he's, his woman's left him or whatever, and back in the day, it's of course the Simpsons were around, and Bart was always saying "eat my shorts,"
Yeah.
So I worked it into a song, and Eddie came in and did a little cameo at the end, and we just had fun with it,
Eat my Bermuda shorts.
Yeah. So and that's all this crazy stuff is still out there. You could get it, on Amazon and all that.
Everybody's gonna be looking for the Bermuda shorts now.
Yeah. But and on that album, the second one was Untangle My Mind. My mentor and friend, Mr. Hank Lachlan, did a song with me on there.
Yeah.
And it's actually a song that him and Jim Reeves wrote back in the 60s on the very first overseas trip that RCA put on over in Germany. They went over there for USO type tour.
Yeah.
And on the airplane on the way back, Jim Reeves and him wrote this song, and it had been sitting on the shelf for many years. And a couple of groups recorded it in the 60s, but it didn't really go anywhere. And so I found it on BMI's website, and called him up and said, "Hey, I want you to do this with me." And he's like, "You're going to pull that old thing out?" And but we did. I'm so glad because, he died in 2009. So, and he was my lifelong mentor. So to have two of my biggest heroes, Eddie Raven and Hank Lachlan, on an album with me is just
that's
awesome.
Oh yeah.
And
you can't beat that. That's
you talk about we talked about dreams, and so some of the bigger things, I didn't become the next Garth Brooks. I didn't become a millionaire, but you couldn't pay me $10 million for that track I recorded with Hank Lachlan or Eddie Raven.
Dude, that experience is priceless.
Right.
You can't put a price on it.
You can't put a price on that. And if I would have stayed in Florida and not moved up here and not tried to do any of these things, I wouldn't have done any of it.
No, you had plenty of sugar cane though.
Yeah. That's right. and a glass of orange juice every now and then.
Yeah, you got to do that too. So you wrote songs with Jim McBride and Douglas Tubb?
Glenn Douglas Tubb. Yeah, Glenn is Ernest's nephew. That's Ernest Tubb's nephew. And he's passed away now for a couple of years, but he was one of my best buddies. He had written several big hit songs. One for Johnny Cash called Home of the Blues. He wrote that song. It was a big hit for Cash. And
another big outlaw of the industry. I mean, my favorite picture of Johnny Cash is when he's like
flipping the bird.
Yeah, and you can see that lip tucked in because he's fixing to say it. He's fixing to F-bomb you.
Yeah. But and I only had the opportunity to meet Johnny once. And sweet guy. And I worked a couple of shows. A lot of people don't remember that his brother Tommy had a string of hits in the 60s as well. He had a song called Six White Horses that was huge back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I worked several shows with him and his sister Joanne Cash Yates. The whole Cash family is just quality people.
Oh yeah.
They just are. And
there's I don't know how you feel about this, but this is something I've been telling people. People write songs and they'll end up with a huge catalog. How many do you think you got in your catalog? How many songs do you think you got that you wrote?
Well, and you're counting the good and the bad and the ugly, right?
Every one of them.
I would probably venture to say, and I know there's guys that have written way more than me, but I will tell you this: I'm not one of these writers that write every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the type of writer, I write more artistically. I'm not going to write just to be writing. I've got to have something inspire me or spark an idea. But when I'm in the groove, I tend to write several at a time.
Right.
But I would say it's probably right at the 500 mark.
Okay.
You know, and I know there are guys that have been here this long that have written thousands.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Ash hadn't been here that long, and according to what she was telling me, it was probably right around 1,000. And I've talked to several other people, and they're in between that 250 to 500 range.
Right.
And I keep telling people, because they're like, we got to have that new material. I can't drag out these old songs anymore. And I'm like, really?
A good song is a good song. You can't.
Look,
I get so aggravated at people putting age on everything. You know, it doesn't matter. You know,
it doesn't matter.
If it's a good song.
I mean, you could go back and pull something out of Johnny Morris's catalog.
Right.
And do it today. Mm-hmm. Put your flavor on it.
Well, on my third album, that brings up to the last album that I had in Underhanded Game. We did a cover of Gary Puckett and the Union Gap,
mm-hmm.
Woman, Woman.
Yeah.
And now two of my closest friends, Jimmy Payne and Jim Glazer, wrote that song.
Mm-hmm.
And so I let them, Jim Glazer passed away in 2019, but he got to hear it before he passed on. But we took that song and did our own arrangement on it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it blew them both away. You know,
mm-hmm.
They said,
and that's all you got to do.
I said, man, we can't believe that, you know, you've made some significant changes, but they're all great changes.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's amazing to me, you know, and
we had fun doing that song. Of course, that was a song where I did all the background vocals and stuff. And
mm-hmm.
so we were stacking tracks like crazy. I mean, I don't know how many tracks ended up. There's probably about 70 tracks on that thing by the time it got done. A lot of them were vocal tracks because, you know, there's where I held out a note and then picked up another line.
Yeah.
And, you know, it works better to stack them that way, you know. But we had a lot of fun doing that record.
I don't know. I remember tracking back in the day on the reel-to-reels, you know, and it was like you had 3-4 reel-to-reels lined up, and you was just kept going and kept going and kept going. It was a lot of work.
That's a lot of work because you got to get the tape always synced back up. And
you got to do it all.
It takes a little bit. I remember, I never recorded I recorded a DAT.
Yeah.
You'd have to wait a little bit for those machines to sync up
mm-hmm.
you know, before you.
Yeah, but they would auto sync.
Yeah.
You know, and that was nice. Mm-hmm. But the old reels, man, you listening. Okay, I got this one. Go to the next one.
And you'd have to mark it.
Yeah.
Each time, you know, make sure you marked it in the right spot to go back.
You had to.
You know.
But it was good stuff. Mm-hmm. I miss those days.
Warm sound, too.
Oh, dude. Does it? You know, and a lot of people can't believe that I'm getting the sound that I'm getting out of this setup.
Well, it does sound analog. I mean, it leans analog.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, that's my ear. I've got an analog ear. I can't do that digital.
See, you've got an analog ear, and I've just got a log in my ear.
Yeah, well, you know, but you can sing. I can't sing. See, that's the whole big thing about that. Dude, you opened Eddie Raven?
I've gotten blessed to work with a lot of people.
Jeannie C. Riley?
Yeah, Jeannie C's my buddy, man. I just talked to her last week. She's retired and moved back to Texas where she's from. And
damn. I was going to say call her. Tell her to get her right up here.
But she's a sweetheart.
Yeah. Blackhawk. Lorrie Morgan?
Yeah. Lorrie Morgan and I.
Doug Stone? Merrill Osmond? Dude.
Lorrie and I had the honor of Grand Ole Opry star Jack Green was a big help to me. He's the guy
mm-hmm.
that first put me on the Midnight Jamboree. And
yeah.
He passed away in 2013. He was great to me. So they asked me to sing at his memorial service at the Ryman, and I was on there. Lorrie Morgan was on there. A bunch of guys from the Opry, Ricky Skaggs, a bunch of us went out there and paid homage to him. So, yeah, that's the first time I got to be around Lorrie. She's a great artist too.
Oh yeah,
great. Her transitions when she changes keys vocally, I think she's so underrated as a vocalist.
Yeah, there's a lot of underrated people out there. It is amazing.
And I want to mention who I call my Tennessee mommy, or mama.
Mama?
Miss Margie Singleton. Margie and I have worked together a lot, and she'd be a great person for you to have on the show sometime because of her history. Mm-hmm. Man, she goes back. She's the first female artist to record an album with George Jones. Mm-hmm. This is before Tammy, and they did a whole album. They had 2-3 hits together on duets, and she also had a huge hit with Farron Young, and had hits on her own and things. But man, she's just, you talk about somebody full of stories, and there's not a lot of people left from that era.
I know.
She's 87 years young, still sharp as a tack, and she's writing a book about her life, and I hope that she gets done with it soon because I'm chomping at the bit to read it.
I wonder if she's going to have any Ruckerisms in there.
I think she's going to have some things in there about me. We've got some stories to tell for sure, and she's got a lot of stories to tell. But so, hi, Mama, if you're watching, I'm sure she will be. And she's still recording, up in her 80s, and puts new music out, and she sounds great, man. I mean,
that's awesome.
It's just unbelievable. You're never too old to do what you love. Don't ever quit.
No, I mean, music becomes such a big part of who you are.
It really is. Is that thunder?
That's thunder.
Oh wow!
I think.
I just thought somebody was giving us thunderous applause.
I don't know. No, that's somebody dragging something or something.
Huh?
That's neat. And it's gone. That is weird.
Huh?
SM7Bs, I'm telling you, you're going to hear everything, but they're gain hungry on the vocal.
Well, you could have fooled me. But that would have been the longest clap of thunder that I've ever heard in my life.
Well, that's why I was sitting there going, what is that?
A minute.
Yeah. See, this is the downfall of in-home studio.
Hey.
But I don't think this picked it up. So, no, I don't think nobody will hear it.
We're just hearing things.
Yeah, we just heard something. That's all it was. Lord of mercy. Yeah, I'd like to talk to Karen. I bet she's got all kinds of good stories.
Oh, Karen Wheeler, yeah, she's she has a book out, talks about all of her experiences, and it's got pictures in there of her and
I like pictures.
Michael Landon and Patsy Cline and all kinds of people that she was with. So she's another buddy of mine.
Oh yeah, I love Patsy Cline. Her voice, man, was just
Patsy, man. I tell you, there's another one.
Nobody had that voice.
That voice never goes out of style.
That's like Janis Joplin.
Yeah, it never will go out of style.
No, it never will.
And you could play her stuff, and it sounds just as great today as it did the day it was recorded. And she's been gone since '63.
Oh yeah, and say another one, a big all-time favorite of mine, on the rock side, Nancy Wilson. Mm-hmm. I love her freaking voice. I mean, there's times, she does certain things on certain songs, and you just can't replicate that. She was kick ass. I loved it.
I like anybody that has their own thing.
Yeah.
That's really what gets to me. I mean,
what's your own thing?
Oh, well, let's see.
Everybody's got their own thing. What's your own thing?
I don't know if you could pinpoint it other than I'll say I had my tonsils out when I was 24.
So you can yodel better?
Well, or I've got just a little bit of that raspiness that's left after that, and it's not as raspy as say a T. Graham Brown or somebody like that, but it's just there. And it used to be before then. In my early 20s, I was more of a smooth crooner type singer. So
and that's a word you don't hear people describe people as anymore. Crooner.
Yeah. Because who croons nowadays?
You look at the old little
Michael Bublé maybe, or somebody like that.
Michael Bublé does, and he's kind of like a Frank Sinatra-ish type style,
And it used to be back in the 90s, Harry Connick Jr. and guys like that.
Yeah, I loved Harry Connick Jr.
Yeah.
And then he figured out he could act, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I like Harry Connick Jr. too. I like Harry Connick Jr. and my dad was more Junior Samples speed. So.
Mm-hmm. Junior Samples was bad, dude. I don't care. He was just the bomb.
BR 549.
BR 549.
If you didn't watch Hee Haw, you don't know what we're talking about.
Can you even get Hee Haw? Can you get Hee Haw on YouTube?
Yeah,
Netflix.
You could get it on YouTube. They're like what I call the bootleggers that have just loaded up old VHS tapes of it.
Yeah.
Now I've got some, Time Life put out like a DVD box set, but there's not. The show ran from '69 to like '93, so they don't have all of them out there, but they've got like a couple of volumes out there.
See, I think the earlier years were better.
Oh yeah.
Because you had Buck Owens, Roy Clark, all the good ones.
String Bean, of course, was murdered in 1974.
Mm-hmm.
That, not to be morbid, but that story always fascinated me. It's a sad story, but
I don't even remember the story.
Well, he was coming home from the Opry one night, and see, the thing about String Bean is, you talk about a country person, he really lived it.
Yeah.
He wasn't just, an artist that played banjo trying to be country. He didn't even have any electricity in his home or a phone.
Wow.
And he was a big Hee Haw star, and he did the Opry, and he came home from the Opry because, the backstory to it is these two fellows that had been around or done some work for him, I can't remember exactly how they got to know him, but they had heard that, he didn't believe in banks.
Yeah.
So every time he got paid, he'd stuff this cash in the pillowcase and hide it. And he was known for keeping large, like hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash in his house. And two, drug addicts got wind of it, and they had done some odd jobs or something for him. And they just made a plan to get that money.
They just basically cased the place while they were working for him.
He came home from the Opry, and they didn't get out quick enough.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up killing him and his wife.
Oh, man.
And, one of them died in prison, and the other one, it was big here locally. They had a big deal about it about 5 or 6 years ago. He finally got out on parole, and there were several of the Opry folks that went down to protest it.
Yeah.
But, they finally let him. He's like 70 now, but he killed the man. It was second degree, but still, I don't think, in my opinion, you should.
How in the hell can you agree on how you kill somebody?
I don't know.
I ain't figured that one out.
They claim they claim the robbery was premeditated, but not the murder. But
okay.
But
oops, sorry.
Yeah. I agree I'm right there with you, brother. I agree 1,000%. I don't know.
To me, it's accidental or
light of day, though. As far as I'm concerned.
Well, there's a lot of people. I ain't getting into that. But anyway, who's texting me now? Nope.
That could be a song title. I might have to write that. Who's texting me now?
Baby, who's texting me now?
See, you do have a good voice.
No, I can't sing worth
There's
shit.
our duet.
I cannot sing
I'll
worth
write
shit.
it and we'll cut it.
I was pretty good at Seven Bridges Road, though.
See,
I could do the bass part
well, I could see that.
because of 7-point harmony.
I could see that.
That's what my dad sang bass in the church choir.
Daddy sang bass.
Oh yeah, Mama didn't sing worth crap. But anyway, when my voice started changing and everything, guess where I went? So he was deeper than me, believe it or not. His voice was deeper than mine when he sang, and then
He was a J.D. Sumner type.
yeah, and I was a little bit bigger, not bigger, but my voice was a little bit higher bass, so we kind of covered the whole bass range in church. It was awesome. I loved that. I can't remember what was the name of that song. Now let us have a little talk with Jesus.
Oh yeah, that's a great bass song.
You remember that?
Now let us have.
Now let us have a little talk with Jesus. See what you started? You done got me playing around on the mic.
Well,
I'll be recording a song later.
I know now that you can at least carry a tune
I can carry it. I don't know how far you want to take it.
down the road a piece.
Down the road. All right, dude. Man, we're going to have to do this again. I think we've almost done 2 hours.
Well, it didn't even seem like it.
I know, but I got to go to bed. I got to get up at 3 o'clock in the
I gotta get this
morning.
one home too and go to bed. But,
Yeah.
I've had a lot of fun, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Be back at. Well,
Joe brung his daughter with him to hang out with us, Miss Campbell.
yeah.
She hasn't looked up from the phone that much.
Yeah, she's easy to entertain herself, so I appreciate that. You know,
Yeah.
both my girls I've got an older daughter. She's married now, but I've drug them around to radio stations and
Music.
all
over.
and they've just been good as gold. They just sit there and I'm sure they're screaming, "Let's go home, let's go home." But they never say anything. So I've always appreciated that.
Yeah. That's
Good
awesome.
girls.
Well, I'm going to tell you like I tell everybody else. Look in that camera right there. See where my finger is? Right here? Okay. Yeah, right there. Right there. And tell everybody where they can find you at, man, and find your music.
Well, I'm on all kinds of social media, Facebook,
Instagram.
TikTok even. And so
I can't believe you got into TikTok. I can't do TikTok.
Well-
it drives me nuts.
well, I don't, I'm just now starting to kind of get into some things, but, and I've got a bunch of stuff out there on YouTube, as well. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm out there. I'm out there all over the place. Come look me up and hit me up, and I'll be, there's 2 or 3 shows I'm doing here in town this year and this summer.
Yeah.
And be going down to Texas in August. And I did want to mention I've got a little movie that's coming out in December. It's called Christmas at Keystone. The Graham Family Films put it on, and I'm in a scene with me and my buddy Marty Rabin from Shenandoah.
Yeah.
And Miss Deborah Allen are in a scene in this movie, and it should be out on Hallmark channels and things like that.
Well, you need to tell them to come get on the show, because I also do. I did a lot of indie movie people, some actors.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking for an actress to come on.
Okay.
And I've got a couple of the guys that I know that are in the indie movie industry. They're one of them just got through filming a movie, and I can't wait to hear about it. And I'm hoping he comes back on to tell us all about it. I can't go into any detail that I know because it hasn't been. I think it's in editing right now. So, but it was Aaron Mertez, and he's the one who gave me that little Bigfoot thing over there.
Oh yeah.
He had it in his pocket. He did a movie called The Bigfoot Trap. And it's out now, and it's like, believe it or not, it's doing pretty good.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so. But yeah, tell them, I mean.
I'll do that.
Come back and plug the movie, man.
We'll do it. Maybe we'll set up a thing where we can, 2 or 3 of us can sit around and talk.
Yeah. I mean, I've got 4 microphones, so that's 1 for me and 3 for y'all. So.
That's right.
And we'll just hang out and have a shoot shit.
I thought you would use all 3 of them and just make us share one.
No. No. Now, if you bring a guitar, I lose a channel because then I got to do that. But I'm looking at upgrading this board to another board because I'm probably just going to go back to the old Yamaha. Mm-hmm. You know, I might get a Midas. I don't know. But I miss being able to
control more things.
Yeah, I'm a control freak.
Well, it's more detail.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can really fine tune.
Yeah. Well, that's what got me about that electronic thing. You can't fine tune with that.
Right.
And it's like anything else. You know, it's like if you're watching a movie and you try to put your finger on the screen and slide it back, and you can't ever get to that right point.
Oh, that drives me nuts, dude.
It's the same thing on that freaking board.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because I was sitting there trying to, you know, and Chris on the monitor, on the stage monitor, Chris was like, take it down. And I'm like, I'm trying to get it to go down and it won't go down. And then I did it a little bit harder and then it went way down too far, right. You know, and I'm trying to inch it back up.
Like
and I couldn't get it set the way he wanted
Netflix and Showtime and HBO Max, they all have a different, I mean, if you rewind it, they've got different speeds.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other one, you know, and so if you're trying to go back like 10 seconds, you either go back 5 minutes or you go ahead 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Back to the right spot, you know.
You can't ever get it done right.
You know, so technology is not always your friend, you know.
Dude, you know, I love that old analog sound.
Well,
to me, it's just better.
It is.
I love it. Well, man, it's been a pleasure, dude.
It has.
And, yeah, get some people together and come back and we'll talk about the movie. And
we'll do it.
Definitely want to hear some more about your shows that you got going on down in Texas and stuff.
Be glad to. Appreciate you doing this. And also just the fact that you're doing it.
Oh, well, I appreciate it.
You know, I mean, this is needed. I mean, there's lots of podcasts out there, but I don't think any of it's coming at this particular angle where we're just sitting back and shooting the crap, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I want it to where it's everybody's relaxed, has fun, and we'll talk about you. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'll interject with my stupidity and
I mean, I'm stupid enough for both of us, believe me.
All right. Everybody, y'all check out Joe Rucker. Joe, wave at everybody. Tell everybody bye.
Thank y'all.
All right.
Happy 4th of July if I don't hear from you.
Yep.
A few months from now, anyway. I don't know why I said that.
It doesn't matter. It don't matter. It don't matter. You could have told everybody you loved them. I don't care. All right, y'all. We're going to get out of here. We appreciate y'all listening. And look, I'm going to tell y'all again, like I've told probably the past couple of episodes I've done. For these artists that are coming up, or even the older ones that are still out there playing and they're making music and they're entertaining you and they're bringing you stuff, you don't understand how much it helps out when you like, share, and subscribe to their YouTube channel, their Facebook stuff. You could be a follower on Facebook. All these things, Instagram, actually, you can follow them on Instagram. These things help these artists. And it helps me too. I'm not going to lie, but it really helps these guys. It helps get their numbers up, their viewers up, and everything else. Because right now, people are booking people for shows, and the first thing they're looking at is their YouTube, how many followers they have, how many subscribers they've got, Instagram, Facebook. They're looking at all these numbers, and it's becoming a numbers game with a lot of these people that are booking people. So help them out. Get these guys out there to where they can get up there and entertain you, and you can have a good time. You can listen to my show and hit like, share, subscribe, and you really don't understand how much just pointing and clicking is going to help so many people in this industry. And we appreciate y'all, and thanks for listening. And Joe's over here bobbing his head up and down going, yeah, and totally agrees with me. I mean, these things need to be done.
Absolutely.
I appreciate everybody that's listened to me and helped this show grow as much as it has so far. I hope to get a whole lot better and reach a whole lot more people. And like I've always said, you learn something, you get to laugh, you get to have some fun. And I might start doing snacks.
Well, if you do that, you're going to have a lot more hiccups and belching.
Well, you never know. Who knows? All right, y'all. We're going to get out of here. Joe, we appreciate you again, brother.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll see y'all later. And everybody have a good afternoon. Like, share, subscribe, wherever I put it, if I put it at all. But anyway, it's on there. We appreciate y'all, and everybody have a good afternoon. See you. Bye.